it's gone.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Marty, alongside John.
Hello.
And returning this week, we've got Aaron.
Hey!
Hey, welcome back. No Dave this week. Unfortunately, he's came back from his holidays. He was off on holidays the last recording. He's come back from his holidays, but now is not feeling well, so he's in bed with a hot whiskey, is what he messaged to say. So we hope he's feeling
In other
better.
words, he's had
What a terrible
he's
pet
had a
name
few
for his
hot
wife.
whiskeys and now he can't talk.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. How you both doing, John? How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Been a interesting couple of weeks. I think since we last recorded, I was up at Murrayfield. Really annoyingly missed a Giants game in Fife for that, but got my first rugby in the last year or so. I saw Scotland just miss out on beating Australia, which was heartbreaking at the last. But anyway, it's not a rugby podcast. It's a hockey podcast.
Yep, it is indeed. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing a lot better than I was. So what I've missed, what was it, 2 podcasts, I think?
2, yeah.
Two seasons, something like that.
May as well be.
You'd missed one, I think. You'd missed one due to, I think you were in Boston.
I was in Boston
And then-
for a week and a bit, 2 weeks,
and then
I came back with
COVID.
COVID. You know, so, similar story to what Dave has there. Went away for a while, came back sick, which just seems to be the way.
Traveller's lurgy.
I didn't get, unfortunately, unlike Ethan, I didn't get a chance to get to a Boston game, but I did text you probably the fanciest way that I've ever watched a hockey game.
You did indeed. You did. I think,
you did.
John, I think, did you mention in the last podcast that you were in a cigar bar with I think, was that what it was? A cigar?
Yeah, cigars and whiskey, watching a Phillies game. That was interesting. That was a bit different. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure that cigar bar is where I got COVID because it was it was so close.
It's what you get for sucking random things in a bar you've never been to before.
Well, that's what you do in Scotland is one thing. But here, so there's one thing I really wanted to talk to you about, and I haven't brought this up. I was talking to a Coyotes fan when I was out there.
per you.
And
There are still some of those things.
There are still some of those, and I appreciate that this might be down to the fact that he's a fan and he's trying to put a massively good spin on it. He cannot wait to get to the games.
The Mullet
in the
Arena?
Stadium. Yeah.
Well,
Because
It's not
of
a
the
stadium.
size. Like I appreciate
well,
it's
yeah.
the flip. It's the mentality flip. Okay, yes, it's not a massive stadium, but they're used to that massive stadium being that, like, normal people like us can only buy
can I
tickets
point-
that are
can I-
up in the sticks.
yeah.
And
point
he's really
out
looking
that
forward to
that's-
going to. Go ahead.
That's all well and good. You're going to get atmosphere. They aren't selling out.
No, they're not.
No,
Actually,
okay.
they're not. They're not selling.
They're not selling out.
But
I think
I
their second home game, half the seats were empty.
I get what Aaron's coming from, though. If you think about it, smaller the rink, you're closer to the area of the players, the better you're going to be able to see the game compared to what you are if you're in the nosebleeds. Exactly what Aaron says.
Well, that wasn't me. That was
Arizona might as well go and play in Kirkcaldy then. They might as well play in Kirkcaldy. And given it's
Anyway.
an
What
NHL
do you
crowd,
think about it?
I guarantee you that Kirkcaldy has a better atmosphere than that arena in whatever, like the Mullet Arena. I guarantee you, because it's an NHL crowd, the likes of Kirkcaldy, Manchester, all have better atmospheres than that Mullet Arena.
Well, time will tell. We'll see. Hopefully, they'll improve their attendance rates. Anyway, we hadn't even into the podcast yet. We're already talking. Since
How
our
are
last
you,
podcast,
Marty?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, all good. Since our last podcast, obviously I've been to the last few home games as it currently is in Belfast. We are now going into a hockey drought here in Belfast. For the next month, we'll have absolutely 0 games at home, apart from obviously the Friendship 4, and I'm wearing my Friendship 4 jersey today just in honour of the fact that that's coming up. But we do have the Friendship 4 in Belfast at the end of the month over the Thanksgiving weekend, which is around about the 26th, 27th, and 20th. I think, if I remember. No, 24th, 5th, and 6th. I think it is something around then. End of November anyway. But yeah, complete drought now for home games. But the last couple of games I've been at, there's been a bit of a a change in the arena. You will both have to experience it when you come. Well, John, when you come back to Belfast at the start of December, I think you said, and Aaron, maybe the next games at the start of December as well. We can get all together for like a Christmas special.
Are you starting to wear sunglasses to this?
Well, the first night I
As
was
the eye specialist, Marty would recommend that you do.
I would recommend sunglasses if you're anyway sensitive to bright light, definitely. But they've also installed a new the new lighting system that they've put in also has basically quick change in color kind of thing. But they do have to put a warning up now because it's anybody with epilepsy or photosensitivity is warned because there is a lot of flashing and strobing lights at the start of the game and through different parts of the game. And the new intro video as well. I'm just gonna say like it's pure cheese. Like I mean pure cheese to the point where I'm talking Las Vegas cheese. Like if you guys remember the video we did in Las Vegas, it's that level of cheese, but it's great. Just that's all I'll say. It's a great level of cheese.
Did I remember you saying something about be able to project onto the because they've done that in Vegas? I thought I remember you saying something about that in the last game.
I think they talked about obviously
wait, the Giants have been doing that for years. We have the little spinny fin heads. Spin around.
No, I think there was they were trying to allude to there was something being alluded to that there should be a new experience, like an ice experience, opening experience with lights and stuff. And I don't think anybody really knew what it was until obviously this week, the past 2 weekends where they launched it. But yeah,
I know that we're talking about the before the game. Can we just very quickly mention the end of the games?
Oh yes, yeah.
Because I know that there's been conversations on both sides about how people feel about the new Causeway clap.
Yeah.
I didn't make that up. That's what it's called.
I know. It's called the Causeway clap, which is just a bit like. Did you catch something when you were in
Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. So it's
it's the storm surge. It's basically a version of the storm surge.
Anybody who's a Giants fan, they'll be used to, or anybody who's been to visit a Giants game, you'll be used to the end of the games where the players will skid around the outside of the rink, around the plexi and kind of wave to the crowd and tap the glass, the plexi and stuff with the kids and everything else. They've now replaced that with all of the players. I'm going to guess it's only if there's a win. I'm going to guess if it's a loss, they're not going to do anything. If it's a win, the players will come together in the center at the center ice and center circle, and they'll whoever wins the man of the match for that game goes right into the center of the huddle, and then the players all go around and then they do it along with the crowd. They'll do the clap, the Causeway clap, the whole clapping thing, and they'll do that together, and it's really effective. It's really good. But I know what you're talking about, John. A couple of I think the kids who are so used to running down to the plexi to kind of fist bump through the plexi and do all of that. I think some of them are kind of starting to get a bit disappointed with the fact that doesn't happen anymore.
They don't do the skate round afterwards.
No, they don't do the skate round.
The skate round is part of, I think, the culture of the team. I think that's going to be missing. It's interesting that you bring that up because I know that during commentary on a game, Kevin Rain's currently injured, and he had seen that for the first time when it was done, not the last game, but I think possibly the home game before.
Game 4. Mm-hmm.
And he said pretty much the same thing. He said that he's probably still going to go around
some of them
because he goes around and gives fist bumps and high fives to the kids at the plexi.
There was three or four of the players in the last game there who kind of didn't do a full skate around, but they kind of came out of it and they kind of done a little mini skate around, but they didn't come out as far as they normally would. They just kind of done a little mini kind of skate around and then went in, which was nice. But no, it's really good, and I think it's.
I don't know. God, I sound like Marty here. I don't like change.
I don't like change.
Wait until you see it. Wait until you see it in person. It's very well done, and I have to give a clap to the Giants for changing something.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's something, and anyone coming fresh to the game is absolutely going to love it, and they're going to think it's part of the culture. It's going to be part of their history of going to see the Belfast Giants, and that's totally fine. I feel like it's getting too close to that whole game night thing that Sheffield do with this stupid Eddie thing that they do, where their man of the match has to do something on a skate round. Carolina got lambasted when they did it in the NIHL, and again, that's a league that doesn't really do it. The game's over. They don't do handshakes. They skate right off after the winning goal. That's the dumb thing. Carolina took a little bit of a beating in the press and from fans across the league for what they started. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's elements of what is done that probably should remain, like the skate round. But again, I haven't seen it in person. I'll probably love it because I'll probably have had a few beers. I'll clap along. I'm the worst of them for being a happy clapper, so yeah, probably bring it on after a few beers.
Yeah, no, it's been well done, and I gotta say, even the only times now I think the lights kind of become a bit like whoa in your face, and kind of they do startle you a bit. The full bright like rink lights is at the end of each of during the period breaks they dim lights down and turn them into like color lights, obviously teal and whatever lights, and they're kind of like flashing on off, and they kind of keep it softer. And then as soon as the period break is about as soon as the period break ends to go into the game again, the lights just come on all of a sudden, whoosh, suddenly, and it's just like all of a sudden you're just like whoa. My wife Aoife, she came with me at the weekend for her first game and her only game for this season. She only ever goes to one game a season, and she came this week, and she was said the same. She was the same whenever at the end of the first period, when it going into the second period after the first period break, the lights came on and she was just like whoa. Oh my God. She was just completely startled by the brightness. But yeah, it's good.
I think even on webcasts there's been a lot of people reaching for the brightness control.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you share a photo on that? Someone was saying that they couldn't even see the puck.
Yeah, but I think that's probably someone just hasn't played around with their settings on their
change the setting on your TV. The highlights. I did watch the highlights of the Cardiff game, and yeah, that they're coming through really, really nice. The definition. We've always had good cameras in Belfast, but now with the additional lighting, it actually looks like it pops on the highlights. The video looks brilliant. So yeah, I think it's down to settings on TVs.
I think so. Look at that. I was having conversation and chat before we get into our usual run of what we do on this podcast. For anybody who is listening for the first time or has found us for the first time, you're very welcome. It's a hockey podcast that covers hockey news from across the world, both here in the UK and wider hockey. So across anywhere that we might find something that's interesting. Breaking into 3 periods. Period 1, 2, and
mostly
3.
Planet Earth.
Mostly Planet Earth. Broken into 3 periods, kind of similar to a game with other features added on towards the end. We start off our podcast as we always do, and we'll look at the current standings in the Viaplay Elite League. It has now officially changed name since our last podcast. We had a chat about this on a previous podcast at the start of the season when our Dave brought along the story around the fact that Premier Sport was bought over and was changing name to Viaplay, and it has officially happened as of the 1st of November. So the Viaplay Elite League is now official. Looking at the league then, and the standings currently as they are, Guildford Flames still sit top with 16 games played and 27 points. Sheffield Steelers sit in second with 13 games played and 21 points. Coventry have slipped down to third place with 15 games played and 21 points. Cardiff are in fourth with 14 games played and 19 points. Belfast Giants are making their move up with 5 in fifth place with 11 games played and 18 points. The Panthers are in sixth with 11 games played and 10 points. Manchester Storm are sitting in seventh with 11 games played and 9 points. Fife Flyers are sitting in eighth with 14 games played and 8 points. Dundee slide down into ninth with 15 games played and 8 points. And the Glasgow Clan still remain at the bottom with 14 games played and 5 points. John, bit of change around the top. Not the top spot, obviously. The top spot is being held by Guildford, as has been from pretty much from the start of the season. What's your thoughts so far?
Yeah, like you say, still in first place is Guildford Flames and their resurgent social media manager, who has been having an absolute whale of a time with that team being where they are. Not much change. The top 5 teams, I think, are going to remain the top 5 teams. There's been a few moves in personnel in the bottom half of the league, but I can't see a title coming from anywhere other than the top 5. Belfast starting to make moves now. We're starting to catch up on the number of league games played. I think, give or take, we would take the lead of the league if we were to take all of our games in hand. 5 games, 10 points. So we would take the league with games in hand. But as we say every single season, games in hand are only so good if you win them and take the points. Bottom of the league, interesting to see, and I know we're going to talk about it, a bit of an exchange of personnel between a couple of teams and new arrivals coming in. Teams are clearly starting to ring in the changes and trying to reshuffle and get themselves back into the middle of the pack. Not surprising to see Glasgow still scraping the bottom of the table. I honestly, I don't see that team achieving much this season. I know that they have had their first victory now. I know that they ran the Giants close a couple of weekends ago. It was only a 1-goal game in the end, but yeah, it's not looking good for them. And equally, Dundee, strong start in the Challenge Cup, has not translated into a strong start in the league, sitting in 9th place. That's a team in severe difficulties, and it's not a great look for a debut coach in Mace. We know Mace, we like what he gave as a player, but that's a coach under pressure now.
Yeah, you're right indeed. I mean, as you say, the top 5 teams do look quite like it's not going to change much in terms of those top 5 teams. We would imagine will still be in the top 5, as you say, towards the end of the season. The Belfast Giants have started going on a good little run there, beating Cardiff Devils this past weekend in dominant fashion. I was in the arena. I think most people in the arena were just sitting being like, what am I watching? Like, what has happened here?
I had to message you because I was I think I had been, was that Saturday? I had been out Sunday. I think we'd been out and I was dealing with Isla, and all of a sudden that second period my phone started, flash scores just wouldn't stop, and I ended up having to message and go, for a start, is this real, and are we that good or are they that bad? And it turned out it was a bit of both when I watched the highlights.
It was yeah.
Something else.
Say,
Marty, you were there. Yep. What was it?
Do you know what? It was just something else.
Were on form,
the Giants came out, were on form, were firing, and then it just got silly. It just got really, just like as soon as the Giants put that 4th goal in, Bounds' head went down, came off, and then they switched in their backup, and it was just, as soon as that, it was just, I don't mean to sound thing to the backup, but it was a free-for-all after that point. The Giants were just scoring for fun.
Let's be honest, Cozen is not a backup. He is a co-starting goalie. Both goalies just didn't show up.
Oh, it was awful.
Ben Bounds, that's a terrible run for Ben Bounds.
The chant of the night came in that was from the whole crowd, not just Boomerang, but the whole crowd. The whole chant was like whistle number 1 GB. You know, it was a whole big chant. You know, it was like a GB number 1. Because obviously
he has to be. After that, there's absolutely no way that Pete Russell can even look in the. I think we have an international break coming. Is it January?
January, yeah.
We have a week off. There is no way that on current results and current form, Ben Bounds is not GB number 1.
Yeah. No.
Jackson Whistle has to be GB number 1.
Yeah,
that's the effects of lovely new lights.
That's it. That's it. Everyone else, the other team startled because the brights are so bright. That's exactly it. That's what I think.
We're going to end up in a situation like Kowalski with the black seats, aren't we? That visiting goalies are going to give off that it's too bright. I can't see the puck.
Oh, so funny. Aaron, obviously we're John had mentioned a couple of bits and pieces there, in terms of even, the Scottish teams in the bottom, Glasgow struggling and continuing to struggle, with Dundee maybe just with the rookie coach obviously struggling as well. How do you see, the bottom 6, the bottom 5, do you see much changes there in terms of how do you feel that will maybe pan out, do you think?
I think John hit it on the head. Clan's not moving, unfortunately. It's horrible to see. But no, Clan's not moving. I don't see much movement in the Fife and Dundee. You might see a little bit of movement between Manchester and Nottingham, possibly. But no, I think it's really. Maybe I've said this before. I think the last couple of seasons are getting really interesting because things are. I think in the top, as John said, top 5, top 6, 7 maybe. There's definitely been a bit of a shake-up. Like, we're not seeing the normal ones right at the top this season again. Guildford Flames done this last year, though. I talked about this. Guildford Flames done this last year. Had a really good run at the start, didn't they?
I think Manchester have a really good run as well. It was really, really strong to start with as well last season. And then all of a sudden they just went right down.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've not that I'll bring much to it, but just like John said, not much movement at the bottom. I say hope maybe a bit of movement from Manchester and Nottingham, but I can't really see it that much.
Just having a quick look at the just the Challenge Cup, because it hasn't been completed yet, but the teams have been decided for the next rounds, for the knockout stages. In Group A, obviously we know the Giants, Fife Flyers, and Dundee Stars have moved through to the next round. Group B, all of the teams in Group B have qualified to the next round.
What a pointless group.
What a pointless group. And Group C, then, it was Sheffield Steelers and Nottingham Panthers, with Manchester dropping out and not moving through to the knockout stages. Just a note that the Guildford Flames and the Coventry Blaze still have to play each other twice in that Group B. Still. So there's still two. Is
that always that entire group always goes through?
Pretty much.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Coventry didn't make it.
It's not how it works. So at this point, you've got Manchester, Glasgow are just out, no points, no wins, 6 games, no points. Manchester have played their 8, got 6 points, but I think with overtime wins, with their losses and the fact that Guildford have 1 overtime win, that means that automatically they will go through, even if they don't get any additional points from the games against Coventry. So it just essentially means that the last 2 games in Group B mean absolutely nothing, and I'd be absolutely livid if I was a fan of those teams that had bought tickets for that game, because it's going to look like the 3rd place playoff game.
Yes, no need for it.
Be absolutely disastrous. Just call them off now. Call them now. Dead rubber, tie games, and just 5 goals each, and just go for it.
5 goals each.
There you go.
10 goals. Why not? Just do 10.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at this point.
Similar to our last podcast, I won't be running. I'm not going to run down the details yet of the NIHL. Still really early days there. We're only a month or so in. We will have it. We'll take a look at the next podcast. We just won't be doing it this week, just because I just felt it's still a bit too early. So we'll wait and we'll look at that closer to the Christmas period. Guys, if it's okay with you, then I'm going to suggest we move straight into our period 1 of hockey. Okay, period 1 is a roundup of stories from around the UK, both in the Viaplay Elite League as well as leagues across the UK, including the the National Ice Hockey League as well. I'm going to start us off, guys, this week in this period. Unfortunately, it's another sad story of another familiar face and another familiar name to the world of hockey here in the UK, and another sad news that another member of the UK hockey has passed away. That is the passing of Brent Pope, who had been fighting with cancer for the last 8 months. He, for anybody who isn't aware, he played for Team GB. He arrived playing with Cardiff in the Super League in 1996. He iced 34 Elite League regular season games later in his career. Pope then obviously did return to the Devils in 2006-2007 season and went on to spend 7 years with the club as the assistant coach and then the general manager, as well as the head of the community foundation and eventually as director of hockey operations there. He stepped behind the bench in his final season with the Devils for a brief stint in 2013 and 14. He's a well-known name. He was a good personality. People remember him being interviewed as well for things in relation to CHL and a bunch of other bits and pieces. And he was named to be, everybody was very familiar with him. I think he's also took part as well in some of the Premier Sports coverage and Free Sports coverage as well through the years. And our thoughts are with Brent's family and his friends at this time. Again, another sad week, another name too familiar for all the fans that we have to say goodbye to. So as usual, we would stick tap to him and send our condolences to his friends and family. John, you have done pretty much the majority of work. Actually, you've done all the rest of the work for this period, which is...
I sent a TikTok.
Oh, sorry.
Sent me.
Yeah. Apologies. Yes.
That's for
John,
period 2. Don't even start.
It's John. I'm not saying it's unusual, but it was a nice relief to go onto the running order this morning and be like, oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, I felt like you needed a week off doing all the legwork, Marty.
Nice.
So I thought I'd step up because someone always has to.
Yeah. Do you want to take us through then your?
Do you want me just to go for it?
Yeah, way you go.
So I'm gonna keep you on your toes, and I'm gonna go slightly off the order that they are in the running order. Guys, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause right now because
Oh,
coming in
yeah.
from stage right,
Holy
Whoa!
sausage sandwiches. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Catherine.
She's gone.
He's also got headphones on, so she would never have heard you anyway.
That's very true.
That's how headphones work.
So, leaving aside that I've now got a platter of sausage
Hold
sandwiches
on.
to eat.
How many sausage sandwiches did you get?
What do you class as a sandwich?
2 pieces of bread and the stuff inside the bread.
Okay, so if you class 2 pieces of bread, then it's 2 sandwiches.
Okay.
So I have 2 sandwiches, both cut in half, so I have 4 half sandwiches.
4 halves. Ooh.
That's
Brown
a lot of
sauce or
sandwiches.
red sauce?
Brown sauce. Never red sauce. I'm not
butter-
a red sauce person.
Butter, no butter?
Oh, butter.
butter?
Butter. Yeah.
Butter?
No butter?
No
Are
butter.
you mental?
Yeah. This has turned into a sandwich podcast, by the way. Yeah, no
Welcome to
butter.
The Door
Never,
14 cookery, or
never butter. No.
you're mental.
On anything, yeah. Anyway, John,
We
yes,
don't, we
just
don't, we don't
continue.
need a Door 14 poll this week. It's Door 14 poll this week is butter or
Butter,
no
no
Butter on your sandwiches, yes or no?
No. Not on
sorry,
your
butter on your
sandwiches,
bap?
butter on your bap with brown sauce. That sounds a bit wrong.
Does. Let's carry on. So this is the stories that in Fife. I'm going to start here in Fife because that's where I'm broadcasting from in Fife. Guys, Fife have spent some money. The arena have made some improvements. Gone is the old scoreboard with its missing and blown bulbs, and in comes a sad attempt at a Titantron type scoreboard with a couple. Aaron, you hit the nail on the head. The photograph that they've put up of their new screens looks really, really good until you potentially stand back and realise that it's just a couple of 47-inch TVs that they've slung up from the roof.
You were nicer than I says that's just a picture of a 27-inch flat screen TV.
So yeah, the new screens are up. They were in use for this last weekend's home game against the Guildford Flames. Unfortunately, that was an OT loss for the Flyers. I did make the point that I fully expect one or more of these screens to be completely banjaxed by the end of the season because of the somewhat short stature of the roof in that building. It's not the tallest of buildings, and there was a reason that there was a number of bulbs missing from the old scoreboard. A puck hitting these screens, I imagine, is going to do a lot more damage than a couple of blown bulbs. Now, I might be wrong. They may have thought about this, and they may have put some plexi or something over the front of them. If they haven't, and that's an idea that someone in Fife's going to take, I take total responsibility for it, and you're welcome for protecting your investment, Fife. But look, any investment is good investment.
Yeah, it is.
Especially this coming from a team who, when told by the Elite League they had to put plexi between the players and the fans, literally put a piece of plexi the size of the handrail and did nothing to separate players and fans. So that if that's not the absolute epitome of Scottish skinflintness, then I don't know what is. But this is spending money for the sake of spending money. So fair play to them, and I look forward to seeing it in person on Hogmanay when the Giants will next be in town here in Kirkcaldy.
I really like there's a tweet there, but from Lynn0812, and it's like looking good. Now I won't have to look on Twitter for the scores.
That's so
Could you
true.
imagine having to do that during a game? Let me just keep an eye on Twitter here.
The scoreboard in Fife used to be absolutely terrible. Like the number of bulbs that were missing, power plays were almost illegible. You had no idea what the time was left on the power play. The number for the power play as well, you had no idea what player was in there, and the game clock was horrendous. Like you just guessed how long was left in a period.
The only thing I did notice, and I kind of wonder, is maybe something they might want to do in the future is maybe slightly, they are the home team, maybe they want to enlarge the logo so it stands out bigger than the actual away team's logo. Yeah. It's a bit tiny. That would be the only thing I would say.
They need someone who knows how to edit a PNG, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't the only news out of Fife. This slightly sadder news was that Fife, being at the bottom of the table, they're not having a great time. But this was the news that Sean Cameron will not be playing the rest of the season. He picked up a lower body injury, and unfortunately that is going to sideline him for the rest of the season. Effectively, going on what I understand, it looks like a torn ACL, and that is going to sideline him for the rest of the season. Not great news for a team in 8th place in the league, and effectively they're not fighting for trophies. Well, they still have a shout with the Challenge Cup, so let's not count them out, but this is a team that realistically come January are in playoff mode. They need to be concentrating on staying in the playoffs. So not great. I know that Dutz will be probably looking to bring in some cover, but it's not a great time to be looking at the market. A couple of teams are making moves, but I think a team like Fife, currently where they are, I think that's a tough sell to bring somebody in at this point in the season. Any thoughts on that, guys, or do I just continue to rattle through the news in the Elite League?
You can continue to rattle on. Yep, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, this is a slightly more interesting one. Sticking here in Scotland, news broke this week that the Dundee Stars, again, another team that are really in bother, we talked about it earlier on, sitting in 9th place, only above the Glasgow Clan. This was the news that D-man and captain of the Dundee Stars, Fabrizio Ricci, was parting ways with the team. Slightly unusual. Not to just to lose a player, an effective D-man, and really probably one of their standout players from the start of the season. That was pretty harsh. The statement says that they parted ways by mutual consent. Moments later, the news would break that Fabrizio Ricci is signing for the Nottingham Panthers. That's got to be gutting if you're a Dundee fan, guys. I mean, it's bad enough to lose a player, any player, through the season to a rival, let alone the guy who's been given the C in your team. Is that a poor indictment on what's going on in Dundee?
And is he going in? He's not going to be signed as
Straight
captain, or?
Oh no, he won't be signed as captain. He won't be moving with the C. But this is the captain of an elite league team, leaving that team and going to play immediately for another one.
I mean, as you say, it has to be a knock. It definitely does. But it's not unusual. It's not shocking, as we say in this league. We're so used to seeing this sort of thing happen quite regularly. And you know, we're so used to just seeing players.
Quick, ask John a question.
Constantly switching in and out. But as you say, John, I mean, for Dundee, it must be a blow. For it to take this way, is it an indictment of saying what's happening at the moment in Dundee? I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's you know, as we mentioned earlier, you know, a rookie coach this season for the first time. I know he's had assistant coach experience, but a rookie coach at time, I think, you know, he needs his time to embed and kind of settle down and whatever else. And he did have a good start to the season, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Very hard to tell.
But it's not like, it's going to sound harsh, but it's not like he's jumping to. It's the Panthers. You know, it's not like he's going, right, I'm going to the Guildford Flames at the moment, or the Giants, or you know, one of the tops. It's the Panthers.
Yeah, he has. He's moved 2 slots up in the Elite League. That's all really. It's a weird move. I think what strikes me more, and I come back to it, is that this guy was named by Jeff Mason as captain of the Dundee Stars. It's not that he's just anyone on the roster for that team. He was picked out of the long list of 14 imports and however many Brits they've got to lead that team through the season. Jeff Mason obviously saw something in him to give him the C, expecting him to lead from the front and lead by example for that Stars team. What he's done is leave and sign with a rival. I mean, that has to be gutting if you are a Dundee Stars fan. Now, I'll admit, Dundee, not a team I really care that much about, but and I haven't looked at any of the Twitter fallout from this, but I would be surprised if there's not a little bit of chat about sort of what's going on. And again, the the Stars are going to have to make changes. They're going to have to look to bring somebody else in if they want to fill out their import slots, and they're going to have to change the leadership group as well. Somebody's going to have to wear that C. Someone's going to have to take that position that Fabrizio has left. That's a hard position to fill when your captain's just left to go and sign somewhere else, and you're going to have to face him later on the season multiple times.
So we don't know whether he's just decided to leave Dundee Stars and then decided to resign, or was it?
I would say it's the other way around. I would say that he's been.
Panthers have approached him.
He's not leaving until he's got another job lined up. Same way that any of us do.
Yeah.
This is the way that this guy earns his money. So he has clearly had an approach from Nottingham, and then he has gone to Mace, told him what's going on, and has left Dundee, knowing that he has already signed a contract with Nottingham.
They give him a glowing review in the post. They obviously they need to make some changes themselves, and the Panthers I'm talking about, that they need to make some changes themselves, and they think he's one of the guys to do it. So
they I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that he shone in that Dundee Stars roster. That team is struggling, and he was one of the key components of why they were so good in the Challenge Cup, in the early stages of the Challenge Cup. Now that they're through and into the knockout stages, losing a capable D-man like that is going to hurt their chances of progressing on through. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least, but probably not the most interesting signing made by an Elite League team this week, I would say. A rather interesting name came across Twitter just yesterday, I believe. This was the news that Manchester Storm have gone and picked up a third netminder. But not just any netminder. This one's a Brodeur.
Yep.
Marty Brodeur's son, Jeremy Brodeur, has signed for the Manchester Storm. I'll say it again. The Manchester Storm have a Brodeur in nets. What?
Well, maybe his dad will come and visit as well and watch a game or two. Come to the League and watch a couple of games,
You think Manchester are hoping he invests in the team?
Well, no, probably not. But yeah, when the signing came up, was it yourself or was it Dave that sent the information, sent the link through? And I was just similar to you. I was just I wouldn't say in shock, but I was just I was definitely taken back by it. I was not expecting to read that. I think it's a good, strong signing for them to bring in another goaltender of his caliber. Be interested to see how he does in this league.
Did you look at his save percentage?
No, go ahead, John.
Did you see his save percentage for the Oshawa Generals? 909. With a 2.81 goal against average. That's not those are not average numbers. Those are good numbers. Mm-hmm. And he's a Memorial Cup winner as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So he is coming with plenty behind him. So much so that and I didn't even realise this at the time, this was the discussion that we had, I had no idea that he had previously been signed by the Sheffield Steelers.
Yeah, I didn't know this until you had mentioned it in our chat. I hadn't realised either. This is prior to COVID, wasn't it? Isn't that what you
so 2019, he was signed in the year that never happened. So players were signed in 2019 with the hope of returning to play, but it just never happened. So yeah, Sheffield, he was a known quantity to the Elite League. Who would have known? But yeah, let's face it, Manchester are suddenly much more interesting. Yeah. And considering the Giants have a game against them this weekend, I'm going to be really, really interested to see, because he's in town. He's already on socials. He's holding a jersey on the rink, so he is ready to go. So I can't wait to see how that goes.
Yep.
Do you see that changing much there for the based on both of those last stories? What, 6th is Nottingham Panthers, 7th Manchester Storm. It's kind of alluded that those might play around earlier, but do you see them jumping up the league much with those two signings?
I can see the middle of that middle group maybe changing, but when you consider where we are and what we've got with games in hand and everything, like I said, we are going to move up that table. We have a long away stint. We all know what the Giants can do with long away stints, so I think we'll move up. I think they are still solidly middle table, unless Brodeur all of a sudden starts doing shutout after shutout, which, let's face it, he's not going to do. He's a goalie, he's not Superman. He might be a good goalie, he's still not Superman. And he's not his dad. He's got the name, but he's not his dad.
No.
If he was his dad, he wouldn't be playing in the Elite League. So I don't doubt he's a bloody good netminder, but let's wait and see what he does. Let's see if he gets selected to start against the Giants. I'll be interested, and I'll keep a close eye. Might even get that webcast.
He's a big skis to fill, I guess, with that surname, I suppose. It's always the problem. I guess it has always followed him.
A lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I have one more, I think, for looking at signings and things before I move on to a slightly different story. But I'm gonna move down the leagues. I'm gonna move down, and we're gonna have a look at the. I don't think I've ever said this in this podcast. We're gonna have a look at the Chelmsford Chieftains.
Mm-hmm.
They have just signed a fairly interesting netminder, who we've spoken about on this podcast before, with his time with the Guildford Phoenix. That's former Chelsea and Arsenal goalkeeper Peter Cech.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So we spoke about him before. He's got one of the most awesome netminder lids that I've seen for a while. He's got a few pounds, so he can go away and get one of those custom lids made for himself. But he's got the Chelsea crest on one side, the Arsenal crest on the other side, and then he's got the GB flag in the middle. And it looks an absolute treat. He's got a few other bits and pieces that allude to his footballing history as well across the mask. But he has decided to take I want to say a step up as far as his ice hockey career is concerned. And he's moved to Chelmsford. They're up a level from where the Guildford Phoenix play. And he got a good win. He got the win on his debut for the Chieftains. And can't be argued with. I mean,
No.
do we think we're going to see Peter Cech moving up into the Elite League? Probably not.
No.
But it does absolutely no harm to these lower leagues to have someone like Peter Cech playing. Can you imagine what that does to the gate at those games?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if you.
I mean, let's be honest. We're not the most football-minded hockey fans here, but sport tends to translate. People who tend to like one sport will tend to like another. I think football is one of those ones where probably quite a lot of hockey fans are also football fans, especially in England. I would say that's probably even more true. So I would expect that this will have a fairly decent impact. I think when Cech went to play for the Phoenix, I think their first few games where he played for them, I think their gate was pretty big. I think they were filling out the arena in Guildford, probably selling almost as many tickets as the Flames were. And now, with that move up, that's going to do nothing but boost those leagues. So it's great to see. It's a great little story. It's also great to imagine that someone at the end of one career, it's something to aspire to, that at the end of one career, you can move on to another career.
Yeah, I mean, his save average for Guildford was is pretty impressive there, .931. That was pretty good.
Better numbers than Brodeur.
Yeah.
Just saying. So that's that one. That was just a little interesting piece.
That was good.
There is one more story.
I really like Murray's like, yeah, football. Yeah, sure. Football. I suppose there's more tickets, possibly.
Ooh, football.
Football friends. Guys, there's only one more story left for period one. And this one comes from friend of the show, Anthony, over at Banners on the Wall. And this was the story. We talked, I think, was it last podcast? Or maybe the podcast before, about the EIHL were in a little bit of a pickle when it came to their sort of game center and sort of game management software. So they had a previous product, and it was announced by the EIHL that they were having problems rolling out this new product called Sportal. They couldn't lift the software off the shelf and just use it for what it needed to be used for. The press release that was put out at the time by the EIHA basically said that yes, we knew about this, but we signed a contract with Sportle and we've been working with them since April 2022. Now it turns out, through some what can only be called investigative journalism by Banners, that that's not the case. In fact, some directors in the EIHA are still not aware that the EIHA has signed a contract with Sportle to provide these services for the leagues. So it's a little bit of a mess. And for a league where the few times that we've spoken about this league, we have commended the transparency and the manner in which the business has been conducted, especially when you look at how the Elite League does things and the fact that fans are completely cut out of the entire process. Now, unfortunately, this league is taking a bit of a reputational hit because they still don't have a system in place that allows for updates of results. Statistics are not still coming through. They other than stuff being written down on paper on game nights, they don't have game sheet recording. They don't even have registration for their players. That's had to be done ad hoc this season. And it doesn't look like it's going to be in place anytime soon. Which is really weird considering that this system, Sportle, is actually already in use in multiple leagues across the world in ice hockey. So it's already doing what the EIHA wants it to do in those other leagues. So to say that they can't use an off-the-shelf product doesn't seem to ring true. And we'll throw the piece up that Anthony has done. It's a really, really good read. And I know that a few of the other British hockey sort of podcasts or social media, like the 4,000 and Counting guys, they've been looking at this. Obviously, Banners has been looking at it. This is a bit of a mess and a huge reputational hit to this league. Guys, I don't know if you've had a chance to read this, but have you got any thoughts on sort of where this leaves the EIHA?
No, just kind of, as you've mentioned, it's a, and we kind of mentioned it in the last podcast. It's just a mess. Like, it's just the fact that I think the poor communication, the poor kind of development of it, especially over the fact that like some of the board members didn't even know or hadn't even that there was a transition happening, and the fact that even with the final product is ready, that whether or not there's actually a full contract in order to use the actual product, because I don't think they had full board agreement and stuff, and I think that's the whole big issue around it too. It's a mess. It's a mess, and it's unusual to see, as you say, John. And we constantly on this podcast will always give kudos to to the league, to the league and how it's run, because they are very transparent. They are very open and honest about things that are happening. They tell you what's going on, and I think this is definitely a misstep from them, and it's unusual to see.
It is.
I'm still confused on what the actual problem is, though, because is it just that they have this platform? It is an off-the-shelf platform that works in other leagues, but the board members just don't know what the right and left hand are doing.
And I honestly, I've read through this piece a couple of times, and what I'm getting from it is that the previous system that they were using, Fixtures Live, was scheduled to be stopped. The manufacturer of the software was terminating support for it, and they were terminating support for it back in 2020, 2021. Now, the EIHA spoke to Fixtures Live, and for the 2021-22 season, they were able to maintain that system. They were the only league, they were the only sporting league across the world who were still using that platform. So they knew for well over a year and a half that they were coming to the end of the term of life for the previous system. Now, when I talk about it being like a game center thing, it's not just that. It's not about league tables and results and all the rest of it. This is how they register their players. This is how they run the league. This is how they do their fixtures. And all the stats and everything that comes around that is based on the system. The issue then comes that the league said that they had sorted all this. They knew that Fixtures Live was coming to an end. They were in the process of fixing something, and that they had agreed and signed an agreement in April. It now seems that that's not the case, and that actually the statement that came out didn't really have the backing and the understanding of all the board of directors. What actually seems to have happened is that the agreement to use Sportal only came in September of this year. So literally, as games were starting, was when they were starting to look, or when they were signing agreements. By that point, they should have had player registration done. They should have had their fixtures organised. What they've ended up having to do is go complete Bush League and do it all on paper and via emails, and have a completely ad hoc system in place for registering players with teams. So this has been a significant misstep by the league. Now, the league did give a statement to Anthony, and they say the EIHA board acknowledges that the transition to Sportal has been and continues to be challenging. We apologise for the disruption this has caused members and thank everyone for their continued patience while we undertake the significant infrastructure change. They go on to say that they appreciate they are currently far from perfect, and as with any organisation, confusion and miscommunication can occur. That statement seems to be trying to cover for the fact that they have miscommunicated what the current situation was with Sportal. I think the problem that some people will have is, well, that came from your own channels. It wasn't a statement that you gave to anyone in particular. You put that statement out. You put it out there that this was the situation, and now it's not. It's definitely a bad look, but fingers crossed things start getting better. Now, Anthony does cover both sides as well, and he does say that from what he's seen of the product on the EIHA website, it does look like it will do the job. It does look like it will do the job well. And he does make the point of saying that it's used in junior and senior leagues all over Canada. It can do the job. The rollout of it is the problem. So it's
from an IT
mistake.
perspective, you can understand that, like, changing a core piece of infrastructure like that in any organization doesn't. If you take hockey out of it and just think about what you do in your own day-to-day work, and that core system that you work with got ripped out and a new one was put in, it's going to cause a lot of it's a lot of confusion within the company and change. But they did have the time.
And that's what I would say. It'd be a different matter if you were in the workplace and all of a sudden one day you're using one piece of software and then all of a sudden the next day you're starting to have to use because the other one's completely just been taken, just been ripped away from you all of a sudden. As John kind of mentioned, like the fact that this league knew back in 2019-20 or whatever it was that they would have to start looking at an alternative solution, and they didn't really pull the trigger at that point to start looking at, okay, let's start embedding this over the next year or so to allow for free, transition, to allow for that kind of learning to happen over the course of a longer period of time. But all of a sudden it's just like sudden, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to move from this straight onto this. And it's like, okay, well, are we going to get anything on it? And it's like, nope, just ripping off the Band-Aid, let's go kind of thing. But I get what you mean, Aaron. It's, yeah, they had time. They did.
Listen, it's something that we will definitely keep an eye on. I know that we've spoken, I think, multiple times about bringing Anthony on to give us the proper rundown of all this and the goings on in EIHA. And it's probably something, especially around this, that we should probably definitely look to bring him in on, bring in the expert on the subject. But he does say, and that hopefully we'll start getting some clarification, because the AGM of the member clubs has to be held by the end of December this year. So there should be an update coming fairly soon on what's going on there, and we will try to keep abreast of it all.
Yep. Okay, that's the final story in our period, but we do have two pieces for our penalty box, so we'll get stuck into our penalty box for this period. And similar to period one, John did most of the work for the penalty boxing, but he is munching on a sandwich, so I'm going to continue on. There is two DOPS I suppose, announcements since in this last week. The Department of Player Safety has announced that the two Storm players both received fines. Ruddy and Critchlow both receiving fines. Effective immediately, Manchester Storm's number 14 Ches Ruddy is fined for his actions, a fighting aggressor and an instigator. At 8 seconds, the incident will be recorded on the player's record for the remainder of the 2022-2023 season. And Manchester Storm's number 11 Cameron Critchlow is fined for his actions, instigating a second altercation at 34:47. The incident will also be recorded on the player's record for the remainder of the 2022-2023 season. Again,
did you
fines.
guys see all of this stuff and what led to all this?
Yeah.
So, I think a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of podcasts ago, sorry, there was a Steelers Storm game. Davy Phillips got banned for a check to head. This is the pretty awful check that we spoke about on the podcast. Davy rises into the check, and yeah, it was a poor check. Chas Ruddy has gone after Davy. This is the first game since, and has basically offered him out at the face-off and said, "Do you want to go?" Davy, being Davy, like we know Davy, he's a known quantity. He's a wind-up on the ice. He is a bit of a rink rat. He said, absolutely no, don't want anything to do with it. And do you know what? Like, for these plays, we are seeing more dirty plays and people aren't being held up to them because the physicality is going out of this game. I absolutely understand why Ruddy has gone after him in the way that he has, and he's instigated the fight. That's all well and good. And I'm totally here from cleaning the bag of Davy for that, because I think he's due it. In the spirit of the game. But at the same time, I totally understand why the league have had to take a stance on this one. Then, it's following on from that, this game descended. Like, there's only this one other additional piece has been made on Cam Crutchlow. This game descended. There were scraps and altercations all over the ice for the rest of that game.
Yep.
The interesting thing to me is that no Steelers players have been pulled on this. Because it wasn't just... I mean, Manchester weren't going out like the Broad Street Bullies. Like, they were being as physical, and the Steelers were giving it back as well. So the fact that there's no Steelers have been fined in amongst all this as well is somewhat bemusing, because I think it could have easily gone both ways as well.
Yep. 100%.
But the point I think you were going to make, Marty... What's a fine in the Elite League? Is it 50p or is it $5,000? Who knows?
Exactly.
Where does the money go? Who cares?
The last DOPS decision that has to just have a quick chat about, guys, is this one for Anthony DeLuca from Manchester Storm as well. On Sunday afternoon, the Nottingham game, Anthony DeLuca was assessed a minor penalty for slashing. If you've watched the video, you'll see that the Brassard, who's Panthers defenseman, is in control of the puck, setting up a breakout play. DeLuca then puts on a bit of pressure, who makes basically then DeLuca.
Yeah, he does.
DeLuca then chooses to skate past Brassard, and as he does so, he uses his toe of his stick to jab and make contact with the unsuspecting Brassard, which is obviously seen as a spearing. This supplementary discipline is the choice of contact that DeLuca has made, so the fact that he chose to do it. This isn't a hockey play. Regardless of puck possession, all contact here, especially with the stick, is completely unavoidable. The use of the stick in this manner is reckless and high potential to injure Brassard. Therefore, he's received the 1-game ban, and did they get a fine? And fine as well. Unknown fine. Yeah.
I would question, with the way that he goes down, whether or not Brassard may have had all of his gear on properly.
Yes.
Feels
down on a knee like that.
feels and looks very much like he may have been missing a key item of protective clothing for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Have a look at the video, folks, and see what you think.
Yep. Indeed. That's it. That's the two we've got from DOPS for this week. I don't think we have anything else. So what we'll do is we'll get moved on to our period 2 of hockey.
Am I doing period 2?
Yeah. That would be you, yeah. You should know this by now. That if Dave's not around, it's you. I just love that. If anybody who's not watching the YouTube feed of this, Aaron was just sitting there like just bopping his head away, and I was like, okay, anytime.
Sorry, I I was in the middle of taking a bite of my sausage sandwich as well, and you were looking at me going, "What are you doing? Why are you eating?"
What are you doing? Why are you eating, John? So, welcome to period 2, everybody. This is when we talk about international hockey from anywhere else that's not the UK. As Marty alluded to earlier, no, actually, we've got each of us have a story this time,
We do.
which is interesting.
We do.
John, I'm going to let you continue eating your sandwich, and we're going to go to Marty first.
Yeah, I think this story is probably the one to lead with anyway, because it is the story that is pretty much dominating the news in the NHL and across the hockey and hockey across the pond, and that is obviously the story of Boston Bruins rescinding the contract for Mitchell Miller. Boston decided to take back their contract or rescind the contract.
Were they able to though?
Yeah.
I didn't think that. I read something last night that they weren't.
Oh
able
no,
to.
they I think you're right. They demoted him down to
He's gone to the A.
the A.
He's
Yeah,
gone
he
to
has.
the-
So this is a completely messed up situation. The biggest issue that a lot of people are having is that no one in the Boston Bruins organization is owning up to this. Now, is it worth going into the detail of this? I don't think it is. I think anyone who knows hockey,
I think it's worth mentioning for anybody who's not maybe into the NHL or who's not fully aware of what's
okay.
going on.
I'll let you introduce it, and then we can have a
Basically,
chat about
just to kind of give you a brief overview of what's going on and the reasons why these decisions were made, was that I suppose it was revealed, or there was basically stuff came out. Obviously, Miller is a very, very young player and was being signed to a contract quite early on. It's an entry-level contract for the Bruins, and there was a revelation that came out that was information in relation to bullying. Which was very serious bullying. Miller, at the age of 14, was convicted in a bullying incident where he and another teenager were accused of tricking a black classmate into eating sweets candy that had been placed in a urinal. Miller and another teen admitted to doing the bullying in a juvenile court and were sentenced to do community service, according to basically, what was announced there. Now, I think the big thing about this and the big thing to be thinking about is that at the age of 14, he made and this does not condone bullying in any way, because obviously we do not condone bullying is awful across all accounts. But what is really important to think about here is this young man who's 20 years of age now did something really, really stupid when he was 14 years of age and now has to live with those consequences. It just shows that at young age, even no matter what age you are or how young you are, you should be thinking about the consequences of what you do and those actions that you take at a very early age and how they can impact your future career in any shape or form. And it doesn't just apply to hockey, that applies to anything that you do, any career that you go into, because things like this can simply pop up. And this is exactly what has happened. Obviously, this was announced that he was involved with this when he was 14 years of age. The Bruins would have known about this, let's be honest. The Bruins would have known that he had a record, well, juvenile. He would have been trialed as juvenile, because obviously they would have had to do their due diligence. And then it's either that something decided that they would still move forward with this, and they thought, well, let's not do anything about it unless someone mentions it. And obviously, it's come out of the woodwork. It was revealed. The family of this young lad who was bullied, obviously, were just like, this is. Although I did see today that the family did come out and say that if they did approach us and just said to us, if someone approached us and had a chat with us, or even if Mitchell had approached us and spoke to us, or his family had come and spoke to us, it maybe wouldn't have got to the stage where this is where we are now with it in terms of him losing his contract and everything else. So it's an interesting take from that point of view. But as you say, the Boston have made a decision at this point to terminate that contract and remove him from the NHL, but move him down to feeder teams. Providence, did someone say?
Yeah, the Providence Bruins.
Yeah. Am I wrong in saying that was it not just that it was a classmate, but it was a developmentally disabled classmate as well, though? Was that not a massive part of this? That I appreciate bullying is bullying. Don't get me wrong, but a massive part of this is that it was a developmentally disabled classmate as well.
I'm not 100%.
I'm not 100% either.
I can understand how it would make sense with the vitriol that's been seen with all this, but I wouldn't want to comment on that, whether it is or isn't true, because I haven't read anything of that. The biggest problem that there seems to have been, and like you said it, Marty, this is a kid who was 14 and did something that was incredibly stupid, incredibly immature. He looks like he has lost the opportunity for something that loads of kids would love to do, and that's to play in the NHL. The major issue seems to be about the lack of contrition from him going forward. Now, in the signing announcement when that was made, he had said that he made an extremely poor decision and acted very immaturely. He said that he had deeply regretted the incident and he had apologised to the individual since the incident. The reason that this then blew up is the family of the kid that he had bullied came out and said that we've had absolutely nothing. And the apology, as it seems to have been, was brought about because of his impending signing, and it was done through social media. It was done, as far as I understand, it was done through Instagram.
An Instagram DM, that's what I heard as well.
Yeah. So that is not an act of contrition. That is an act of, let's cover our backsides because we're about to sign you. That's not a great look on the Bruins, and a lot of Bruins fans have been really, really upset about this, and they're asking who in the Bruins organisation is going to take the fall for this. Now, Cam Neely, who I think is the director of hockey for the Bruins, obviously well-known player, storied history himself, he has been the one who's been put forward to the press and deal with the situation as it's been unfolding. But this is a situation that was made even worse because, of all people to get involved, Gary Bettman got involved and effectively said that the Bruins did not consult us on the signing, and Gary Bettman made the decision that he was ineligible to be signed and play in the NHL. Which, when the story I'd read before, I think he's obviously been put down to the A, so his NHL signing, or his chances of playing in the NHL are now gone. Now, Gary Bettman has since said that he would have to see significant evidence to the contrary of him being completely uncontritional to even consider letting him play in the NHL. I'll be totally honest, this is one of the few big W's, as far as I'm concerned, for Gary Bettman, as far as organisationally against the Bruins. I think 100%. An example has to be set. But there is always the argument of, you do something at 14, how long do you pay for that?
Yeah.
As an adult, someone can go and admit something, like he did, serve a sentence, and then is expected to be treated no differently than anyone else after that. Now, that obviously depends on what's happened, what the crime, let's call it, was. Obviously, some crimes and some issues will stay with a person, no matter what, and that'll affect what they can do. This one, it's a funny one. It's that your entire life is potentially massively impacted by something you do when you're not physically or mentally mature enough at 14 to consider what's going to be impactful for the rest of your life. So it does raise those big questions. It's an interesting one to see how it's going to go. The biggest one is I'll be interested to see if Providence play him.
It should also be noted as well that this is actually the second NHL team who have parted ways with him. Obviously, Miller was drafted by Arizona initially in 2020 through the draft, which was 4 years after this incident happened. He, at the time, during that stage, Miller sent a letter to all 31 NHL teams acknowledging that his behavior, what he had done, and had said, obviously, as you mentioned earlier on, he apologized in inverted commas for his behavior, obviously not in any kind of,
so this has been
way.
Going on for 2 years.
Well,
then
this is the thing. So the Coyotes drafted Miller, and they knew of this conviction in 2016, but the team ended up parting ways with Miller because they came under a lot of criticism and a lot of heat from people within the circles, within the higher ups in there in Phoenix. they basically parted ways with him. But then obviously Boston picked him up and were offering him an injury contract as a follow up. And obviously then this has came out because obviously the young man in question who was bullied has basically said that there was no sincerity in it, and there's absolutely no contrition, and there's nothing to show that there's any significant change to his behaviour from whenever it happened to now. So it's an interesting one. But as you say, John, it'll be interesting to see what does happen moving forward in terms of, with his move down to Providence, and if Providence do decide to run with it or not.
Yep.
Such a difficult one, but 2 years ago he was 18, so he's had 2 years, and he's 20 now, and they apologise via an Instagram DM.
It is that, and you have to, for that one, you have to start thinking generationally as well. For us, that's not an act of contrition. We're not of that generation, and it doesn't smack of an apology for us. But does it to that generation?
Mm.
It's all about perception.
Who knows? All right. Okay, I think we shall move on. John, you have an interesting one. Evander Kane makes a return to period 2. We haven't had Evander Kane for a while now.
He does, yeah. So this was the story a couple of days ago. Kane was playing for the Oilers against the Bolts, and Pat Maroon skated across him after he had got tied up with Myers at the boards. And now, I'll admit, the first couple of times I watched this video, I didn't really get what I was watching.
It's hard to see.
I didn't see it, and to be honest, the first thing I saw was actually Maroon's knee going to his head. I actually thought he was knocked out for a split second, the way that he's on the ice. But no, Pat Maroon's skate, as he goes past, manages to bypass the glove and the jersey of Evander Kane and catches him on the wrist, on the bare wrist. And it's a bit of a mess. Mm-hmm. There's an awful lot of blood on the ice, and he gets up pretty quick, and he's over to the boards. Thankfully, he's on the same side of the ice as the benches. He's straight over to the trainer, and you can see him shouting. And the trainer gets the towels on straight away. Now there were different reports as to what happened following that and what happened in the locker room. There were reports of people having been shouting, "Help, help, help." Now, whatever's happened, the backroom staff, paramedics, and coaching staff have been able to stem whatever bleeding was going on. It looked like it was a lot of bleeding. And he was transferred to a medical centre. And the next day, he put out a tweet saying, "Thank you all for the kind wishes and prayers from over the past several hours. Obviously, last night was an extremely scary moment for me, and I'm still a little bit of shock. I'd like to thank the entire training staff of the Edmonton Oilers and Tampa Bay Lightning, along with all the doctors and paramedics who rushed to help treat and repair my injury. Without all of you, I know things would have been much worse, and I'm sincerely grateful. I won't be back next game, but I will be back, and I look forward to being back on the ice, playing the game I love alongside my teammates in front of our great fans." Now, since then, as well, and guys, I haven't put the link to this in, but I will eventually. The Oilers have confirmed that Kane is likely to miss 2 to 3 months with this injury. That to me would suggest that it's obviously not just a flesh wound. It's obviously involved some serious blood loss as well, and probably a fair amount of patching and surgery's been required. I wonder if there's other damage in there as well, and that's why they're potentially looking at a bit of physio as well to bring him back to full if he can. Now I know that we've had our comments to make about Evander Kane, and let's be perfectly honest, he is still playing in the league. He is doing a job, and nobody should go to their job and get injured doing their job, regardless of everything around it. So some of the social media stuff that went around this, a lot of people obviously saying, "Oh, I hope he's okay. That's a really serious situation." Even Pat Maroon was interviewed after the game, and they were asking if you ever seen anything like that before. Some people questioning whether Maroon could have taken diversionary action and not made any sort of contact, either with the skate or the knee, to Kane. That he wasn't really questioned about, but that's popped up. But also some of the comments circulating around this, not least from his ex-partner, who had made the some of the allegations against him with regards to his personal life. Basically, I think her statement was something like "all smiles here," and then she advertised her OnlyFans through Evander's injury. So, look, he's not sparkly
That's
white.
not classy.
That's not classy at all. But look,
Nope.
he's not sparkly white. Nobody came out of the situation around Evander Kane sparkly white, not least of all himself or his ex. But again, nobody should have to go through an injury like that. That's a scary, scary injury.
Yeah, it was
What
definitely.
were you guys' thoughts when you saw it?
Yeah, again, anytime you see an injury like this that involves a skate, and you see that amount of blood just coming out so quickly, it's a scary moment. And seeing his face, and just like as you say, like we've had.
He looked terrified.
He's terrified, and you could see it in his face. And when you see something like that, you just think it could have been so much worse. And again, just going back to one last thing, and just on my thoughts on something that you mentioned there, John. Because as I say, I've seen it. This is going around too, just about whether there was an intention or non-intentional and stuff. And again, I'll kind of come back to that too, because I did see those comments, and it's hard to know because when you watch it back, and as you said, like the first time I watched this and the first I seen this, I thought to myself, where's the contact or where is it going on? But it's subtle. It's very subtle, and you see his leg, you see his foot come up and over his wrist just slightly, and it's quite quick. And again, I do wonder what was in his thinking in relation to lifting his foot up instead of just kind of like skating.
My biggest thing with it is it is so difficult to
when you're watching
judge,
something in slow motion.
Yeah, you're watching it in slow motion, but also like it's one of those freak things. Like if he's skating through in any other time, and he does lift his foot, it's not like he's gone down and tried to skate through the arm. But at any other time, you would expect that you're either going to hit glove or you're going to hit jersey.
Yeah.
Like to find a gap, I think to suggest. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the play is still happening just behind where Evander's still sitting on the ice. Maroon's gone in to play the puck. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, because I don't think that you can actively say that he could look and saw that there was a gap between the jersey and the glove and thought, I'm going to have a go at that. Like,
Yep.
I couldn't do that with a knife in my hand, let alone with a knife on my foot.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think it's unlikely. I think it's unlikely, and I don't think you can press that down at Pat Maroon.
No. Could he have taken more precaution? Possibly. But
got to play the puck. The whistle hadn't gone. You've got to play the game. He would get slated on the other side if he'd stopped playing. If he tried to skate around a guy on the ice. I think, to be honest, like every other blade on skin incident we've ever seen, I think it's a freak accident. I think it's highly worrying. I think it's never good to see that. It's never good to see any blood on the ice, but not to see a skate to skin blood on the ice.
Yeah.
Because they are worrying. But I think it's just a hockey incident.
Yeah.
Yep. So we wish him a speedy recovery. Definitely. And if you are in any way squeamish, don't go watch the video.
Yeah, you're right.
Definitely.
Well, you can probably watch it like 2 times before you realise what's going on. Then you'll see the blood.
Then you'll see the blood and then, yeah. Okay, that's fair. Watch it once. So we're going to move on to our last story of the period. And this is one that has been making its rounds for, I think, about a week now, is it?
Yep.
Before I drop the A-lister, it involves who does it involve?
Yeah,
it involves the Senators.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a while back, their former owner Eugene Melnick passed away, and it has sparked the beginning of the process to sell the NHL franchise. At the moment, I believe it's his daughters that are looking after
It is.
the whole process at the moment.
It's his daughters, and they've retained a sports company to handle the sale.
Yes, I actually I had to get Google to pronounce that sports company name because I was like, I can't say that name. I have no idea. um, so basically, and then there was a fear that, well, if they're going to get sold, are they going to be moved out of the capital there? Are they going to get moved, pushed out of Ottawa? Um, and a fan reached out to quite a famous Canadian. You might have heard of him. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. He sounds familiar. Can you just enlighten me to maybe how we would know him?
Apparently, he owns some Welsh football club.
Oh, right, okay.
I think that's the height of his
Right.
fame.
Okay.
Yes, our very own Deadpool was questioned on Twitter whether he would be interested to buy the Senators, and he just replied back with a wee thinking face. Now, at the time, you could think, well, that's just a little bit of tongue in cheek, but he has been on Jimmy Kimmel. Isn't it
Yep.
Kimmel?
Jimmy Kimmel. Yep.
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 And he was asked about it, and he's fairly thinking about it. He talked about needing a sugar daddy to help him pay for it. It's not cheap,
Or
it's
multiple sugar daddies.
or
Yeah.
multiple sugar daddies.
think-
So
I think what's-
if you're a sugar daddy, you can reach out to Ryan Reynolds and talk about buying an NHL team.
I think what's interesting in this case is that obviously, for anybody who, if you haven't watched it, and we made a joke earlier on about the whole fact I'm not really a football fan and whatever else. I'm not a football fan, but I did watch the Wrexham, TV show. The
Welcome
one
to
that ran-
Wrexham.
Welcome to Wrexham, and it was really, really well done. But it's funny because in the first episode of that, obviously Rob Delaney, who is the co-owner of Wrexham, had mentioned the fact that he wanted to buy this team in Wrexham, and he's like, but who do I know that has movie money,
Hollywood
who has
A-lister money.
Hollywood A-lister money, has hard alcohol money, has
Gin
money
money.
for cybersecurity company money, blah, 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 joking around about all of that. And obviously he went around, and this is kind of Ryan's way of on this interview. Ryan was kind of saying the same thing, only because he knows himself that it's a significant chunk of money to buy the Ottawa Senators
Was it
compared to what it was to buy Wrexham.
265 million?
Billion,
Something
I
like
think.
that.
It was like
They're the third cheapest NHL franchise because
Yes.
of their. I think the Yotes and maybe Florida are the only cheaper ones.
let me
when they were
bring-
valued.
He's talking. I'll bring up the list. Yep.
So, yeah, pretty interesting. One of my favourite things that's come out of this, especially on social media, because Ryan Reynolds basically lives his entire life on social media, is one of the first. I can't remember if one of you guys put it in our group chat.
I think it was Marty shared it.
Someone edited the Senators logo immediately with the Deadpool face, which is fantastic. Now, can you imagine how his TV? He must have got some money from Fox or FX or Disney for the Welcome to Wrexham TV show. So that must have softened the blow a little bit of buying a National League football team. Can you imagine the Disney money that comes for Ryan Reynolds buying an NHL franchise? I mean, he doesn't need a sugar daddy. What he actually needs is Hugh Jackman, who he's managed to get back for Deadpool 3 anyway. So can you imagine Deadpool and Wolverine owning the Senators? Because the Disney money truck got backed up into Hugh Jackman's front garden.
Yep.
That's who's got all the money, is Hugh Jackman. That's who he needs to speak to.
But he does say he seems to be enjoying Wrexham. There's a quote here: "I've only been an owner of the football club for a very short time. So far, I've found it very time-consuming, emotionally exhausting, financially idiotic, of course, but utterly addictive." So,
Well, I mean, if you want a financial black hole, why not go with a team who are constantly in the bottom quarter of the NHL and a leading money loss when it comes to franchises? My interesting thing was, Marty, I know that you I think put up the piece that had all the figures and everything on it.
Yeah, and I
think
can't
you're
find
looking
it
for it now.
Yeah, I can't find it.
I could not believe. Well, I could and I couldn't believe who the top most valuable team was. I mean, I can believe it because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I was going to say it's the Leafs, surely.
The value, however, was insane. $2.3 billion
Yeah.
that franchise is worth.
Yeah.
And you've got Ryan Reynolds, who might be picking up the Ottawa Senators from just down the road for
600 and something.
for a few million.
Oh, was it 600 million?
600 million or something. Yeah.
It's
660
mental.
or something.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
mental. But you talked about them potentially having to, or being forced out, or it being
Yeah.
like a franchise sale that a new owner might move them out. Part of the sale is that the team must stay in Ottawa.
Oh, okay.
Oh, very good.
So that has been stipulated, that because of Eugene Melnick's history with Ottawa, his charitable foundations that he set up linked to the team, and also given the franchise history, that the Ottawa Senators must remain in Ottawa. So this is not a sale to move, this is a sale to stay, which is hopefully what someone like Ryan can come in and do as part of a conglomerate deal, which would be just amazing to see. Deadpool night at the Sens.
Yeah, what we could do is that, like Marty and I always joke about buying, or winning the Euro Millions. But have you heard about the lottery tickets over in America at the moment?
Was it something? What did I see?
2.2 billion.
2.2 billion or something.
2.2 billion. Someone. Did you also see that the guy who sold him that Powerball ticket, just a shop owner, won $1 million?
Oh,
because
did someone
he
win
sold
it?
him the ticket. Yeah, someone won it. So the fact
I didn't know
someone
someone won it yet.
Yep.
Oh, that just
one person.
my plan.
One person won it,
That's crazy.
and the shop owner who sold him the ticket just was given $1 million by the
Of course you
company.
would. Oh, the company.
crazy.
So it's not even the guy who won.
Not the guy. Not the guy. Powerball just gave him $1 million. So he hit a button to sell a ticket to make a profit himself, and he won $1 million.
He probably got the million because it's probably to do with wherever the winning ticket comes from gets a little bit of like here's your thing for selling the tickets.
That's gonna be
you sell our tickets.
That's going to be a
percentage
well-stocked 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So
I think
one
that's
person won 2.2 billion.
that's crazy.
Yeah, but bear in mind you have to pay tax on that in America, so
Oh,
that's going to strip you. That's gonna cost you $1 billion or so.
that's going to cost you $1 billion. Okay, I think that takes us to the end of period 2, so we shall move swiftly on to period 3.
Welcome to period 3. This is our general knocky news. Excuse me while I pour one out here for the third period. Knocky news is where we talk about anything and everything else in the world of hockey that doesn't fit neatly into periods 1 or 2. Guys, there's only a couple of things to talk about in this period, and I'm going to start the way that I went on in period 1. I'm going to start over here in Scotland. Guys, we know that the Edinburgh Caps are back. We know that they've played their first homecoming game. Unfortunately, it was a loss to the Aberdeen Lynx. But the big talking point is the bar. Caps bar. Now, we talked about Fife investing in their scoreboard. Have you guys seen the pictures of the new bar at Murrayfield?
I have. Yep.
What's going on there?
It's nice. it's yeah.
What a place.
I know.
It looks insane. It used to look like a 1960s like school lunch hall. And I'm pretty sure the chairs and tables were so low that they actually came from an old school. But now it looks like it's solidly from the mid-90s.
It did move up a couple of decades, definitely.
It really did. I joke, it looks better than it's from like the mid-90s, but it actually looks incredible. The big screens that show you the game like that's going on the ice, it's amazing. It's incredible.
As soon as I seen the first thing, and I meant to put this in our group chat, and I forgot to put this in here. The first thing, whenever I think it was Dave that sent us through the link to it initially. I think Dave was the first one to put it on to because I think he was looking at it and he sent it through. And the first thing that struck me was whenever I seen obviously the amount of effort and the amount of investment they've put into, obviously the ice, the amount of development that they've been putting into the fan experience with the whole new bar and everything else, and trying to fix all that up and make it more welcoming and inviting and that sort of stuff. And as you say, John, the TV thing and everything else, straight away in my head, I was just like, this is a future-focused team. This is a future-focused owner who's focusing solely on our place should be back in the Elite League, and therefore we need to start preparing ourselves so that when we get to that point where we can advance, that we're ready to go. We have the infrastructure here ready to go, so that whenever we put our application back into the league to join back, we have the infrastructure here that will allow us then to still give fan experience and do all that we need to do in order to kind of I suppose compete with those other teams, Fife, Dundee, Glasgow, obviously close to home, but obviously ultimately the Elite League. That was my thoughts, my opinions. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe you guys think differently from me.
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, we spoke about this and we've said it would be great to see the Caps back in the Elite League just because they're the Caps, and we love going to Murrayfield. But you're 100% right. This investment isn't for no reason. The bar is not called the Caps Bar just because the Caps happen to play there. This is a joined up approach to a franchise that they're looking to build there. This doesn't now feel like an ice operation, an arena operation, which is going to suddenly take the ice away from this team and give it to a slightly higher bidder, like they did, or the previous owner, did with the Murrayfield Racers. I don't think that's a situation we're going to find ourselves in, and the fact that it's shared branding as well absolutely says we're here for the long haul.
I do want to ask a question, John, though.
Yep.
Does no one like standing in Scotland?
No.
Like,
no.
It just seems...
We're a large people for a reason. We like our fried food.
You think of our bars. We don't have that many tables and chairs in a bar. Like that's a school dinner hall.
I get what you mean. There is a lot.
I would temper that we base that on the fact that the arena in the SSE, for example, it's an event space, it's a concert space, it's an ice hockey space. What it isn't is a public skating rink, which is what Murrayfield also is. So it's catering to multiple sort of demographics here. So it's catering to the ice hockey crowd who are coming to see the Caps. It's also catering to the parents who bring kids to skating lessons, to groups who might want to rent out the bar, and they might well just have the bar open without games being on. So they're giving it that pub feel, I think, is what they're doing, and that's the difference between a rink and an arena as well. Is that there's a different expectation of it there as well, and actually I think
functional room.
Absolutely, and I think they probably sell their hot food from there as well, if I remember right. I think that's where you used to be able to go and get like chips or something was up at the bar, wasn't it?
I do joke. I appreciate it does look really well, and I really appreciate that it looks it's teal.
If I remember correctly,
it feels very giantsy.
If I remember correctly, I think the food was down on the ground floor, just near the entrance. I think there was a hot food like
that's true of Fife. That's true of Fife. I can't remember if it was the same for Murrayfield.
Yeah, it's been a while.
To be honest, every single time I've been in Murrayfield, I've been drunk, and more than half of those times I brought my own beer in and nobody questioned me. Okay, I thought that would get a bigger response, but never mind. Wow, left me hanging there, guys. Thanks for that. Right, more important. Last weekend, Boomerang Corner played an absolute blinder at the game against Cardiff. The guys at BC managed to spread an absolutely fantastic mental health message that in the land of the giants, it's okay to talk. They handed out 1,500 mental health awareness leaflets to both the Teal Army and to away fans from the Cardiff Devils. They've also made the same material available via their social channels. You can go on, there's a QR code that you can scan, and you can get the leaflet that they have designed there. And guys, any chat of mental health is a good thing, and I think BC can only be applauded for the work that they do and they continue to do, especially around this area around mental health. So guys, massive congrats. That's a huge thing that you've done, that you've organised, and it's all for a fantastic cause. And you guys said it best online, that if you reach one person, then it's all completely worth it. So massive congrats to you guys for seeing that through, and massive stick taps from us. Guys, do you have anything to add on that?
Only thing I have to add is obviously as you've mentioned most of it. I just think it was a great initiative they done. Obviously they tweaked people's interest obviously with the whole 35. And for anybody who didn't know what the 35 was, it was it could be the amount of support, isn't it? With the mental support, it could be you could fill the amount of issues with mental health issues across. Could be fill. You could fill the arena 35 times, I think, or you could fill the rink pad 35 times. It was great. It's a great initiative. And I've got to say, whenever I was there, obviously at the game, whenever they were handing out the leaflets and the cards, and I will say that when they were handing them out, they had people reading. They had people looking at what it was. People were turning over those cards. You could see people were taking time to actually look at those cards, read what was on it, what was being handed out. So fair play to the lads and the ladies and everyone involved with this whole initiative. And also obviously it is a fan-led initiative, obviously, but obviously the Giants org as well, obviously supporting these guys to be able to do this leaflet drop, and allowing them to kind of take that message out and put it around all of the fans and move around the arena freely to do this.
Fan-funded as well.
Yeah, so fantastic bit of promotion there done, a bit of and more importantly, it's a fantastic message to be putting out, and yeah, congrats.
Massive. We would encourage absolutely everyone, and we'll throw this up on the website, and we'll also throw it up on our socials as well, the QR code for the leaflet. If you're in Northern Ireland in particular, it's of particular benefit. It's got links to organisations and charities that can help you if you are suffering at all with your mental health, or just need to chat to someone as well. That being said, our socials, our DMs are always open as well. Most of you that are listening probably know us to chat to us in the arena. A couple of us more than others, and probably especially not me these days. But my socials are always open as well. If anyone ever just needs a chat and a wee FaceTime with a lovely Guinness Zero on the odd day as well, you'll always find me there. But yeah, stick taps to BC for all the efforts that they went to on that one.
Yeah.
Well done, guys.
That wraps up Knocky News, Marty.
Yeah, it wraps up Knocky News, but I think it also wraps up our podcast. I don't think we actually have anything else for this week in our running order.
I just throw one more thing out there.
Of course.
I know we mentioned them at the very start of the podcast, but Ethan is still absolutely loving his North American adventure. I cannot take my eyes off my socials. He has done some amazing things. Done a couple of things that I've done as well, but he looks like he's had a lot more fun being at places like Niagara. Looked absolutely awesome.
Did you have a trip out there?
I did. I was in Canada. If I didn't tell you, do you want me to tell you the story? But
no,
it's all right. Looks like he's had a brilliant time. He has just had the red carpet rolled out from in Washington.
Literally red.
Invited down to pre-game skate or morning skate as well. The family got completely decked out in Caps merch, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And that's saying something when this is like a week and a half ago. The guy was out chatting with some guy called Sydney Crosby.
Crosby.
Never heard of him.
Crosby, I think is his name. Some kid anyway who plays hockey for Pittsburgh. And next up, I know that a couple of the family now, Amy and her partner, have had to head back to Northern Ireland today. But the rest of them, Andy, Yvette and Ethan, are now heading for Nashville and will also be heading to see the Admirals. So they're going to see the Preds and the Admirals and go see some old friends there as well. So I can only hope that these guys throw the red carpet out for, or the gold carpet, throw the gold carpet out for our man Ethan as well. I hope you have a fantastic end to the trip.
Yep.
Can't wait to catch up with you whenever
Probably
you're
one
back
of
in
the most
Belfast and I'm back
well
over as well.
connected. He's probably one of the most well connected ice hockey
Absolutely.
fans that we know of.
I would
Yep.
say so.
It's probably, you know what? It's probably the kind of guy that we need to have on the podcast at some point.
Agreed.
Okay. With that, we will round up this week. We don't have anything for our other segments, for our overtime.
What about Mark's Corner?
I know, nothing this week. He was quiet this week. Mark, where's your questions? I think we didn't get any. I don't think there was anything else. I think we've covered everything else that was sent through to us.
have we made the big announcement yet? I don't think we have. I don't think we've officially announced.
Playoffs
on the podcast. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
We will.
Yeah.
If you don't follow us on our socials, I mean, what are you doing for a start? Or if you happen to be Campbell on Facebook, you probably don't know this yet because I definitely didn't put this on Facebook. We are all heading to playoffs this year, guys.
I know.
All four of us will be in Nottingham for playoff weekend. I know a lot of people have been moaning about the tickets and the allocation, the fact that you can't select your seats anymore. You can't get an arena map up for playoffs anymore. And I had a little chat with Thomas Brownlee on Twitter about this, and I think it's because somebody last year might have been putting together maps of unsold seats around the arena. So now you just select your block and it just gives you the first available tickets. So a lot of people are being offered rows A, B, C, D, that sort of, and a lot of people are looking for like the seats at the back. I can confirm, guys, that we are sitting in row C, so we are at, unfortunately, we're pretty close to the plexi. But to be honest, if I'm bringing beers from the bar, I'd rather go down those stairs in the NIC than I would up those stairs, especially after I've had a few.
I also have had a previous experience in that arena with the final and being sitting in the back row of the block when the Giants won that year with that goal. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most dangerous and this most risky that I've ever felt in my whole entire life. I just remember at one point, I think just from the sheer height that I was, I think I lost altitude and therefore my head got really light as well. And I thought I was going to pass out, but that just could be because of the excitement of what was going on the ice as well. But I can remember just thinking to myself, I don't want to fall forward because it's always it just feels like it's just like a direct drop
steep.
When you're up there.
It is pretty steep.
But yes, officially, we've got our tickets for the games. We've got our accommodation booked, and we've got our flights in place. John, you just need to get your train ticket whenever that comes up. I'm sure that'll be
John's train
pricey.
ticket is more expensive than
train ticket's like twice what your flights are.
Yeah, probably. So we'll be flying over, and can't wait. We're looking forward to it.
Do you know I can actually? I've already looked at this. Do you know that I can get a cheaper flight if I change in Dublin than I can get a train directly from Edinburgh?
It's crazy.
I'm not even joking. I'm considering flying to Dublin to fly to East Midlands.
Yeah, you should just.
That's how bad it is.
Flew with us.
That's how bad it is.
There you go. And
there you go. So what have we covered this podcast? We've covered sausage baps. We've covered a little bit of hockey, football, and travel.
And a Hollywood star. There you go.
Hollywood stars. We're jack of all trades.
And with that, we will sign off the podcast as we always do. You check out our previous podcast, this podcast, and all of the content that we talk about on our website, door14hockey.com. As John has already mentioned, you can follow us on our social media. Reach out to us, ask us questions. If you just want to have a bit of chat, please do so, as John had already mentioned. And we're on all of the social media channels at door14hockey. And I think that's really it. If you're listening to us on your podcast platform of choice, don't forget to make sure you're subscribed if you're not already subscribed. And secondly, if you could leave us a comment or if you want to leave us a rating, we would really greatly appreciate it.
Hi to our new YouTube subscriber. We got a new one last time.
Yay. And with that, then, we will sign off for this week. I'm Marty.
I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
Have a week.